Now, it's no surprise that owning a home is expensive in the Denver market, but you know deep down that owning a home is a path for you to work with inflation and not against it. But where do we find properties that are house hackable? And I'm about to show you a whole network of neighborhoods that only the truly in the know are capitalizing on. So let's reveal the secret Denver spots that savvy house hackers are using to beat the system and build wealth. And real quick, who am I to talk about house hacking? I personally am a 3-time house hacker and have helped dozens, if not hundreds of people find, buy, and manage their house hacks. I want the next generation of people to attain home ownership without breaking the bank, and I want the next generation of people to have hope in retiring early thanks to investing in real estate. And if that sounds like you, give me a call or shoot me a text or even schedule a free Zoom call with me. All of my contact information is down below in the description. I walk the walk and I talk the talk. Okay, let's get back to the point of this video. Where are my clients finding solid house hacks? So let's start with the most popular type of house hack for my buyers, the separate units. So these homes have a separate entrance going into the basement, meaning you don't have to share a kitchen or a living room, and you don't have to run into them while you're under the same roof. Now, Denver is a solid spot for this separate entrance kind of strategy because when I was living over in San Diego, there's no basements, and I bought a duplex with my wife and we lived in the big home and rented out a room in the big home as well as rented out the other unit. So we wanted to mitigate the mortgage as much as possible, but there was no basement. So I think Denver is such a solid spot for this separate entrance kind of strategy. So when I talk about the separate entrance strategy of house hacking, it's very attractive for couples or individuals who want to have their own space and not deal with housemates. And it is so clutch because even with this strategy, you can make $1,500 or even $2,000 a month just by renting out your basement, of course, depending on the location and how done up it is. The convenience of this kind of living comes at a cost. Homes that have this kind of layout are hard to come by, and you may have more competition for that home because not only residential buyers, but also investors are planning on buying them. So where can we find homes like these? I mean, the specialized layout of the home is pretty common from the mid-50s all the way to the early 70s. And if you were to do a specialized search, I'd put in the range of 1950 to 1975 builds. They have 2+ baths and also 3+ beds. Now, in regards to the specific neighborhoods, they can vary. I've seen homes with separate entrances to the basement as far north as Northglenn and as far south as Littleton. But if I were to give you certain neighborhoods, this is where I would look. I would look in the Sherwood and Twin Lakes areas just west of the 25 freeway. It's a solid price point, easy access to Boulder and downtown Denver. It's also not far from the 70 freeway, giving you access to the mountains and also Denver International Airport. Another solid location is the big block of neighborhoods, including Villa Park, Barnum, North Alameda, Westwood, and also Athmar Park. It's a sweet place because you're even closer to the city of Denver and maybe a 5 to 10 minute drive from the ever popular Sloan's Lake and Edgewater neighborhoods. And every time I do showings in that area, there's a lot of investors flipping homes, but the market isn't what it used to be. Some of these flips are sitting on the market for several weeks or even months. So if I was a buyer looking for a house hack right now, I would take full advantage of the market. Another solid place to look for that separate entrance going into the basement is South Arvada. And that's because on the north side of Arvada, finding a home with a separate entrance will get tougher. I mean, it becomes more suburbia and the layouts are just different as you go further north. At the same time, the south side of Arvada is more attractive in my opinion. I mean, you and your potential renters will be closer to the RTD rail line, the 70, the 76 freeways, and of course, Old Town Arvada. And it's a win-win in South Arvada where you'll find more homes that have a separate basement entrance and you'll be closer to the amenities. I will say that these benefits come at a cost though. Home prices are generally higher in this area. One last thing I want to say about South Arvada is that it's sought after for those house hackers who want to make the most income as possible, and I'm talking about the short-term rental strategy. Arvada allows investment properties to operate as a short-term rental as long as you meet a couple of requirements. And the first one that I know of for sure is that you need to get a short-term rental license approved by the city of Arvada. And number two, you have to have that STR occupied a maximum of 66% of the year, approximately 270 days, added the 365. These are pretty reasonable accommodations to have an STR in Arvada. I mean, most Airbnbs don't want to be occupied over 80% anyways, but that's another video for another time. And like I mentioned before, these aren't the only areas that have the separate basement entrance. I just noticed that these are the neighborhoods that have a high percentage of that special layout my house hacking clients really like. Now let's move on to a strategy that is getting more and more traction to the investors who want to fast track their real estate portfolio. The Denver real estate market has become more and more unaffordable, unfortunately, but there's one way to invest that many longtime investors really swear by, and that's the rent by the room strategy. So what exactly is the rent by the room strategy? It's where you rent out each room to individual renters instead of renting out the whole home to one individual tenant. And why is it so attractive? Well, when you rent out each room for, let's say, $900 a month on average, for a 5-bedroom place, it can generate $4,500 in revenue per month. Or if you live in one of those bedrooms, you're still making $3,600 per month. You have long-term tenants, which avoids short-term rental laws in the area, which means you're able to use this strategy anywhere in Denver and beyond. The rent by the room strategy is also very attractive because renters are flooding the market right now, and many people are just waiting for the market to crash before they even look at buying a home. And for you who's looking to buy a home, that means less competition when finding the best home for your strategy. Okay, so where can we find these solid rent by the room homes? Well, first, what are we looking for? We're looking for a lot of square footage. I'm talking about like 3,000 square feet and beyond. And bonus points if the home has, let's say, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and over 3,000 square feet. It usually means that there's extra square footage for you to put in more rooms, and more square footage means more rooms, which means more profit. I won't get into any objections on the rent by the room strategy, but you can put it in the comments below. Let me hear what you think, and maybe I can address what you're concerned about, because the thing is, this strategy works, but it's not for the faint of heart. Okay, anyways, back to the point, where can you find these rent by the room homes? And I would definitely look in the Aurora area. Aurora has some massive homes, and combine that with a lower price point, the barrier to entry is much lower in Aurora compared to anywhere else in the greater Denver area. And there are some homes with a ton of square footage, but there's one component of Aurora that I find attractive specifically for the rent by the room strategy, and that is the bed to bath ratio. And not many people know about this. Having a 2-bed to 1-bath ratio is one of the best ways for the chemistry of the housemates in the home to just be top notch. And many homes in Aurora have that 4-bed to 3-bath ratio, and with that, adding 2 more bedrooms does fulfill that 2-bed, 1-bath ratio, but then you're also including another $1,800 in revenue potentially when you put in 2 more rooms. Another location that I would say you should look at for the rent by the room strategy is the North Lakewood and also Edgewater areas, and this might have a higher price point, but you're going to attract a lot more renters in this area. The character built into the homes makes it more attractive aesthetically, and the proximity to the city of Denver means housemates can hang out over there as well. And the price per square foot is pretty high in this area. However, you're looking at like $400 per square feet, maybe even $450, versus Aurora, like I just mentioned, around like $300 to $350 per square foot. And since Edgewater is considered the city of Denver, I have to mention that Denver has a new law related to the maximum number of unrelated persons that can live together in Denver. And here's the thing, there's no maximum number, meaning you can have 4, 5, or even 8 housemates living under one roof. Now, me personally, I don't think 8 housemates is a great idea unless you have the living space for it, and I'm never an advocate to be a slumlord or having living conditions below my standard of living, and I have a pretty high bar for my standard of living. But if you're scrappy and decide to rent as many bedrooms as you can while you live in the house as well, you can live for free even in this market. The last thing I'll mention on this topic is be cautious of HOAs. Having a single family home in an HOA means you're likely having to deal with their standards versus the local ordinance of, let's say, the city or town of Arvada or Edgewater, whatever it might be. And if you have any questions on that, make sure you hit me up. All of my contact information is down below. I do this for a living, and I want to make sure that you're making the right decisions, especially when it goes towards your goals. So you can even schedule a 15-minute call with me to discuss your goals to be a homeowner, investor, or even try to reach financial independence as soon as possible. Once again, thank you so much for watching, especially all the way through this video. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And make sure you like and subscribe, especially before I end this video. So again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.